Hi everybody, my name is Mark Underwood and this is my Frost River subdivision of the CH&FR Railroad. It's the new 10 foot by 10 foot N scale shelf with peninsula layout that I am in the process of constructing, and this will be the first of what I hope to be many entertaining video blog entries that I will produce documenting this layout. The layout was designed by my friend MC Fujiwara, who runs Yard Goat Layout Design from his home in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think he did an excellent job with the track plan and the space utilization in the room, and I think you will find that as well. If you have need of some layout, construction, or design advice, I would highly recommend that you consult with him. That's yardgoatlayoutdesign.com. So we're going to take a quick tour around the layout. I have the base bench work completed and the foam in place, and I have marked the rough outline of the track plan onto the foam so that I can start getting an idea of where to do some basic contouring of the landforms and also cut and install the fascia around the room. And I've begun work on the backdrop and planning for the lighting valance that will go above the layout. So the layout is modern day, 2015, and features a lot of industrial switching, yard operations, and a little bit of mainline train running for effect to interfere with the switching and for display running. The layout is essentially a large oval with a branch shelf off to one side, and I have about a dozen different industries around the room, with a 5-track hidden staging that will be, as I will show you, will be hidden beneath and behind one of the major structures in the area. The locale is Central Kentucky along the CSX-CC sub main line, which runs from Cincinnati to Corbin, Kentucky, and on to Point South. The rough location of the town of Frost River is where the real-life town of Richmond, Kentucky is located. So we have mostly Central Kentucky rolling flatland, horse farms, fair number of trees. There will be a hint of a river crossing in the aisleway, and I think this layout will support from 2 to 4 operators. We might squeeze a 5th into the room. Space is a bit tight, and there will be room for a dispatcher in the hallway outside the room who will communicate with the operators via radio. So without further ado, let's take a look around Frost River. We start here in the corner of the room, just inside the entry door, where we have a narrow shelf along the wall, and our first stop will be Commonwealth Paper Products, and this will be an indoor dock of a factory which takes in corrugated paper and produces printed boxes for retail packaging and shipping products. So our narrow branch line proceeds along the wall, and there is a passing siding here or a runaround that can be used for the switching activities, to a lift-out bridge section across the closet door, and then begins a 2% grade ramp up behind this factory to the main layout level. This factory here is the Georgia Pacific Dixie Cup factory, and this is a model of a factory here in Lexington which makes Dixie cups, the small paper disposable cups many people use in their bathrooms and you find in public drinking areas. From there we'll turn around here to the peninsula, and I will back up enough that you can get the long view. This peninsula extends about 5 feet, a little over 5 feet into the room. And the branch line which came up around the end of the room here actually curves around to the far side of the peninsula. You can see here following the blue tracks down this opposite side where it does a switchback move and then continues on around the main part of the layout and connects to the main line roughly where that tape measure is sitting. On the near side of the peninsula, the main line, which is red here, comes around to a passing siding and another large industry, which is also local. And this will be the J.M. Smucker Company's Jif peanut butter plant. This plant is here in Lexington, and it will be a rather large facility with 4 tracks for covered hoppers and a small track for tank cars of vegetable oil, as well as this small track here, which will be most likely a switcher shed for a small switcher station here to do local switching. The actual Jif plant does not use a locally stationed switcher. It is switched by the R.J. Corman Company train, which serves the industry. But I want to introduce that operation as a separate move. Coming around this way, we have the lift-out bridge, and this is something that I think will be rather unique here. We have to be able to cross back and forth through the broom. So this bridge had some different requirements on it. I did not want to go with a drop bridge because I was concerned about how to construct the landing end of the bridge, the far end, and also did not want the track work exposed to being bumped and struck by things as people were passing through the open bridge area. I thought about a swing bridge, which would swing out into the room this direction, but I was concerned about blocking the aisleway that I'm standing in right now, which is the entry door area, and would complicate people moving from one side of the peninsula to the other. So I opted for a lift bridge. Lift bridges have a problem of needing the hinges on the hinge end to be above the line of the track work, above the top of the rails, so that the rails don't strike each other as the bridge lifts open. And they also need to be very tightly closed with a small gap between the rails. So I came up with what I think is a rather unique solution to this, in which that I used cabinet hinges, and I'll show you that in just a moment. The final limit that I had on the bridge design is I wanted to keep it as clear as possible underneath, so that people who are able to and don't mind can duck under the bridge without opening it during an operating session. So turn around here, and I will lift the bridge and show you the hinge assembly, which is here. Excuse me. Camera light got in the way. There we go. So I have 2 of these European style cabinet hinges, which are made for inset cabinets. And these have a unique rotation to them, which allows the track to clear in the hinge area here. You can see, it's a bit dark, but you can see how the track is not contacting. And as the bridge comes down, the track sort of swings out and up and then back down. Now you can see here that the track on the landing end of the bridge here has been damaged, and that was caused by some experimenting that I was doing with the bridge alignment. When I do a final installation of the track, I expect that this will be a very stable arrangement and easy for the trains to cross over. Okay, so in a moment we will go around to the other side and look at the rest of the layout. Okay, picking up where we left off, we crossed the lift bridge, which will actually have a bridge seam modeled on it, which is the reason for the lowered bridge deck there. The single track main line will curve around this way to the location behind this little Bachman Plasticville station. This location will be Stanley Hay. Oh, my sign fell down. Or Stanley Forage. This is another area business which is very, very modelable. It is a small transfer and distribution warehouse which has facilities for 2 boxcars, and they take bales of hay and other forage products shipped in from Idaho and distribute them to the horse farms and dairy farms and other industries in the area that require forage for feeding their animals. So it's very small. Most modern rail-served businesses are quite large, and this one is one that can be actually modeled almost exactly to scale. Certainly to scale in the terms of the amount of traffic that is served to it on a railroad, on a model railroad. Moving on around to the left here, or counterclockwise around the room, here is the point where the track will branch off into staging, which is the dark brown track towards the back. And the staging we'll talk about in just a minute. The main line continues here in red and enters into Frost River Yard. These 2 tracks here will be the engine service area, although I actually plan to move them forward closer into the foreground. And this will provide modern diesel service and storage for the road locomotives and switchers that will work the area. The main line comes on around here. There's a passing siding main line here, passing siding here, and then an industrial track which is attached to the passing siding. Over here to the right will be a Pepsi bottling plant, which will take in tank cars of high fructose corn syrup, and possibly later on switching to covered hoppers of sugar as the soda industry is moving back towards sugar rather than corn syrup. Behind there you can see the staging tracks branching out into a 5-track staging. This staging will be hidden behind the next industry, which is the Young Storage Company. This is one I may rename. It's another local business that is a large transfer warehouse facility, and this will be modeled as a large 2-story height warehouse structure, and it will cover the staging tracks, keeping them hidden from view. The Pepsi Company plant will also block the view of the staging turnouts, the ladder for the staging. Here in front of that you can see the yard lead here and the first arrival departure track coming into the yard. Here's the branch off to engine service. There are 2 arrival departure tracks for the yard, and the yard ladder starting here branches off into a 6-track yard which curves around the northeast end of the layout to the left. The arrival departure tracks and the passing siding and the industrial spur, industrial siding all close back into the single track main here where the Sharpie pens are. And the arrival departure track ties in right here behind this track, which will be my RIP track or car service for minor car repairs. In the background here you can see the north end ladder of the staging tracks coming back together, and another industry here which you'll see ties into the main line just to the left. This is the West 6 Brewery. It's another local business. They make a number of different craft beers. The real West 6 Brewery is far too small to need rail service, but I will, in my fictional world, grow them so that they will take several hopper loads of various grains, tankards of alcohol, and will ship out boxcar loads of finished beer and other beverages. So the industrial spur goes underneath the photo box here, ties into the main line here. This is where I made a error in the alignment of my drawings that I was transferring to the main line, so please forgive that. The branch line, which we started off with, comes off the main right here, and as I mentioned, it curves on around onto the peninsula here, and also provides this spur here for the 84 Lumber Company, which is a retail lumber business. We'll take in center beam flats and regular flat cars of various lumber products for commercial and residential construction and provide them to customers. Over here you see this black spur coming off. This is the spur that goes across the base of the peninsula and serves the Dixie Cup factory there. I did not mention earlier, but the Dixie factory will be 1 to 2 box cars of indoor loading dock for the paper products. The shorter spur there will be a tank car spot for chemicals used in the paper production process. And the factory itself will be open to the aisle. It'll be a cutaway of the factory scene so that you can see the loading dock, and I will model the interior in some detail. Moving back here to the branch line, it will come around. This is the Y, which is the switchback to continue the branch around behind the Dixie factory and onto the shelf. And here we have the industrial tracks and the runaround for what will be the GAF Roofing Products asphalt shingle factory on this side. The level sitting there is taking the place of what will be a backdrop divider down the center of the peninsula, which will divide the roofing factory scene from the peanut butter factory scene. So the blue tracks here, which are the branch spur, come on down here to the end of the peninsula where the train can do a runaround and reverse its direction, and there will again be 4 industrial tracks serving the oh, excuse me, I said that wrong. Those tracks are for the peanut butter plant. There'll be 2 industrial tracks here serving the asphalt shingle factory, and a 3rd industrial track here, which also provides service to that factory. So that's the basic layout of the room. I'll do a slow turn here to show you without blinding you with my light. There is the shelf in the corner coming around. You can see the peninsula in the foreground. Across the north end of the room, around the corner, this is the north end of staging and the tail end of the yard. Coming across the yard and the staging, the yard ladder, the yard throat, and the warehouse industry and the Pepsi industry. Engine service here in the foreground, the staging tracks coming out from behind the Pepsi factory, Pepsi plant, and tying back into the main line. Here will be the scene with the Stanley Forage factory, and there'll also be just to the left of the placard here will be a road crossing. This is one of the interesting things about this spot. There is a road that crosses just beside the real factory, and it becomes a switching problem for the railroad serving this industry to make sure that they do not block that road crossing. So they will have to deal with that, split the train and so on. So we come around to the bridge, and that is so part of the land deal for getting this room for the layout was that I needed to move pretty much all of my model train storage and operations into here. So beneath the layout, you'll see here is my working computer and my workbench area. A nice desk underneath here. There's just enough clearance space. And over here, shelving and cabinets for storage. And since I've just moved in, I'm still working out what needs to go where and what sort of storage I need to pick up. So it's still a bit of a mess. There will also be some space for storage beneath the peninsula here, and of of course, there'll be a refrigerator. Now, here you can see the backdrop, the first piece of it here. I'm using 0.04 inch thick styrene, and it will be 16 inches tall. And I have a bunch more out in the garage waiting to be cut and put into place. If you're concerned about emergency egress from that window, you can get through it underneath the layout here, and the backdrop's being held up with the Command adhesive Velcro strips, so it will come down quite easily if someone for some reason needs to go over. Above the layout, right above the backdrop, will be a lighting valance, which I have yet to construct, and it will go essentially all the way around the walls, and I have something somewhat special planned for the lighting on the peninsula. I haven't quite worked that out yet. Okay, so now you've had an introduction to the Frost River layout and a little tour of the place. I hope you've enjoyed that. Our next video will probably cover some details of benchwork construction and hopefully a little bit of progress on the backdrops and fascia. And hoping to get started on track laying as the weather cools in the fall. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back. Bye now.